Hi, KiMani and Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's symposium conversation. Um, it was such a beautiful performance by Michelle on solo clarinet of a new piece by KiMani Bridges called Midnight, based on a painting by Susana Aldonondo's called Special. So I wanted to start by asking KiMani, why were you inspired to work with Special?
From all the selections that you sent me, it was the one that stuck out to me most. And I feel like I could draw a lot just from the colors, the physical appearance of the piece.
And in your introduction video, you speak a lot about exactly that, like colors and going from like what you're immediately drawn to the center of the painting over time. And I noticed that the piece is extremely gestural and you take advantage of all the different registers. So can you talk a little bit about like the different colors that come through with the solo clarinet and the way that you wrote the piece?
Mhm. And so this is Midnight, which is what my piece entitled. It was very different than any I've ever done. Because when I first saw the painting, I was like, I want this to be really light and calm, which is something that is not completely my style. I like things that are more dramatic and dark. And so when I first took this on, it was a struggle for me at first because I had to refocus my mind and what I was supposed to be listening for. And so for the colors, that's what the colors were a big part. And for me, my process starts with a storyline. And so my story was like a night on the water at first. And so and and so I started what was on the outside. And so you know how in movies where before like a scene begins, they show you the whole entire thing, like they zoom in, and that's how I envisioned it. And so I just started with the colors on the outside. It's like what represents yellow? And I was thinking trills, very fast trills and timbre trills. And then as we dived in more, I thought about more about silence because I in using silence in the piece that's something I usually never do. And so that calm gestures, the sweeping motions with the clarinet represents more of like water and like going towards the middle of the piece. And then the big leaps and everything is like, I need something exciting. And so that's where the big leaps come in. That's where the transition from like light blue to that like navy is. And then the navy is the little short section before the end of the piece, which is very lyrical and like very expressive, which is what I saw as the color pink. Did I answer your question? I kind of forgot it halfway through when I was talking.
No, that was great. That was really beautifully said. And I love this sort of cinematic approach that you took. And I think this is a perfect time to bring in Michelle. So, what was knowing all of those different components, what was this like for you to literally bring this piece into the world as the performer?
It was really cool. KiMani and I had a couple of meetings about talking about the structure of the piece and like the idea of kind of like traveling into the painting and then going through the different colors was just such an interesting process. And the piece itself is very gestural. I love that word. And I felt like with each different kind of thing, whether it was timbral trills or kind of these like 30-second no flourishes that are throughout, or just something really still and lyrical, I felt like there were so many different characters I was attaining throughout the piece. So it was really great for just like bolstering my own creativity in a way.
Yeah, I love that. And what was it like for you as a performer also to experience this piece through KiMani's story, but also through the visual art piece, like having that as like another resource?
Yeah, it definitely helped to shape my interpretation. I feel like I had first looked at the painting and I'm really drawn to a lot of blues in particular, but more recently I've kind of become more attached to pink. So the way I had seen the painting and then like having an additional perspective from KiMani, it made me like attribute really different approaches to all of these different colors. So like having something really lyrical could also have that sense of like passion and integrity to it. It was like kind of an interesting back and forth in a way.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And so the two of you had a few like Zoom workshopping the piece, or like, tell me a little bit about what those conversations were like.
So our first meeting was just like a introduction. Then as we continued, because when we first met, the piece wasn't fully completed, and so I gave her a draft of what it was, and so then she's done amazing work on everything I've sent her. All the recordings she's sent back. It's just really, really, really good. And then as we talked more about the colors, and then for like the ending of the piece, is something I sung and recorded and notated. And so we talked about making that more lyrical, but like adding more vibrato, like a singer would. And some sections where we have this bit gigantic vibrato. And we just went over all the stylistic nuances I had thought in my head what a piece sounded like, and she adds some of her own, and it's like nice collaboration.
Well, I'm so glad that you two were able to connect. And KiMani, you're in Kentucky right now?
I am in Indiana right now.
Oh, in Indiana. And Michelle, you are?
I'm in Manhattan right now, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just really nice to be able to have you be in virtual collaboration with one another and create beautiful new things, and have Susanna as well be part of this process. It's really an honor to have the two of you, and obviously Susanna. And thank you so much for making time for this. It's wonderful. And I really love the piece and the performance. Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you'd like to add, or any fun components that you'd like to share with the audience?
Ooh, something cool that I remember throughout our process of working together is that there are these kind of these upward glisses at one point in the piece, and it kind of signals to a bit of a tempo change. And at first, I had like one approach to them. It was more of like a jazzy kind of like smear, but then we actually went back to the MIDI file where KiMani had put it in, and it actually sounded so cool. And it was more of kind of just this like run up, and it had like so much more personality to it. And I feel like in a way, because of the technology that we had available to us, we were able to find this like additional way of interpreting this one thing. So it was a really cool moment to be like, oh, that's what she was hearing, and that's like what I can do too.
That's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I feel like that's something that wouldn't have been possible had it not been for the pandemic, and for the ways that we have to describe certain things with technology. So yeah, that's very cool. But yeah, thank you both so much for being part of this. And I'm just really excited to share what you've created with everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.